Hey traders, Jeff Yates at Full Throttle coming back to you. Today I want to focus and outline a play that we did yesterday in our room here, and there's a few really cool lessons on this that I've been using for 20 years that helped us find one of probably the three trades that held up during that $5, $6, $7 shuffle down when the market took that low. There were very few trades that were holding up nice, and so we seeked out relative strength and found a really good one with JNJ. And I'm going to walk you through some details, and this is something that you can do day in and day out. Focus on these things I'm going to share with you, and you'll be able to spot higher than average probabilities of stocks moving in your favor, be it short or long. So hang with me and let me show you. By the way, you can always come to Full Throttle Trades, get a free trial, and we'll walk you through this day in and day out live while we're actually taking the trades. Hang tight, let's take a look at the trade. Okay traders, here we go. This is Johnson & Johnson. I'm going to start with the daily thing because this is probably the most important that a lot of people skip. They're just not experienced in trading. Is that you have to understand that when you have a wide range bar or nearly a wide range bar in a stock or in an index, and it closes less than around 20% near the bottom, and then the gap is far beyond to the opposite direction like you see here in JNJ. You have to remember, everybody, most of the people in that day, 80%, 85% are short JNJ in that day, and previous days as well. But when you have a gap up here that shot way up in here, and of course biotechs were strong as well, and drug makers, you have to realize what they're doing. They're covering their positions. This is too far gone. They can't risk that short continue to go with no end in sight. So that combination of short covering and also the people like ourselves who are looking for opportunities of stocks that are gapping into good price void, that combination creates a synergy that moves prices void very often. Now, not in every case. There are some cases you'll find that working out, but if you wait patiently, you see what the market's doing. If your stock holds up, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of holding, there's a darn good chance the market, it will continue to hold up. You need to find an entry. So if you look at here, two things were happening on JNJ on the daily chart. Number one, we came down to the daily 200 moving average the prior day, right? We had 80%, a little wider range bar here. We had about 80% of that candle body had not been taken out. Now, if the gap had came back here to the 100 or back to the 8, then a lot of people would have been exiting their positions, some getting in, but basically that would have lightened up the shock value, and when the gap happened, it would not have as significant of a rubber band type effect. So the fact that all the shorts are down in here and they're starting to cover in here, along with new people coming on board like ourselves, jumping on that momentum wave, that creates a nice dynasty in the move. So that's the first thing. Obviously, wide range bar closes near the low. That's the key. And clean gap into price void. So you can't just gap anywhere. You got to be gapping to the left. You got to go back at least 3 months and making sure there's nothing to the left. And obviously, we're going back in here till April, and we have plenty of room even up to that area. So there was nothing here in the short term to have any cause any at least short-term supply, obvious supply areas that J&J would have kind of held up from going much higher. So if I gear down to the 2-minute chart, let me show you how the play worked out. If I go to the 2-minute chart, and I'll walk you through the entry on this. So you can see right in here, when the market was actually going south here quite a bit yesterday, market just got killed. Here's the opening bar right in here. Even to this area right in here was 620, 624. We're down to 621. What was J&J do? Holding like a champ. Move back to the center line and the trend line that's on the bigger time frame, and then a big, huge drop at that point. Let's go back to J&J for a second and watch. Now we've got, what was J&J? Does that look far different than the stock market? It did, or it does. The other thing I want to focus on is where is VWAP trading in this area? Number one, VWAP is the magenta color or the pink color line in here. It was holding well. I don't like to go into VWAP, so I waited for it to clear VWAP, making sure the relative strength was still engaged, and when it was, and then we had the crossover right here, right at the exact time, the 9 EMA on the 2, the white line crossed the VWAP. I said, this is going to go higher, more than likely. It's going to have the higher odds of going higher. And so I told the room, I said, look, once this thing triggers over 162.41, let's get in, put our stop under that low right there, about buck and a quarter, and let's ride this puppy up to the top. Now, what we did is that because we came up to the top here, we actually took part of our profits back, actually right in there. We sold out part of our profits up to around 165-ish, because that's where the previous top was. You can see there's a previous top and a pullback here that leaves supply behind. So we wanted to be safe that we didn't have a huge move right back down. We've seen that time and time again, particularly in these markets. So we took off half our position there. We rode that back half up to and through just basically an R. So it's around 165.13. So right about up in these areas in here. Didn't quite get the total move here. Got most of that move in there. Entered here, fairly tight stop. Took partial here, took the balance in that bar. Great trade. Now this is just a couple $100 trade here, just with 100 shares or so, but the point is that if you follow the routine of looking for shock value, looking for how big that tail is, that's an important function here, and I'll go back to that actually, because if you don't have this, you don't have a play. If you go back to that tail, you don't want that wide of a tail. You want that shock value up here to expose everybody. The more people that come out creates a larger tail at the end of the day. At the end of that day here, the larger the tail, the less momentum on the gap up. So you want as close to the bottom as you possibly can, typically no less than about where it is right here. You don't want to go any higher than this. Held to 200. That way these people covering created just a tremendous amount of upward pressure in buying by covering the short positions, which excelled the stock in here. So we had a good sector, we had relative strength, we had the 200, we had a nice tail here, and a gap up the clean void. 5 key things, 5 key ingredients to nailing the market. Now, this happened all in about 30 to 45 minutes. Some of these happen in 10, some happen in seconds. But the point is, if you don't have this right, I'm not saying they won't still go up, but you've lowered those odds to closer to 50-50. We want to get that 55 percentile, and these are the things that bring you better than average, getting the higher odds that you will take off and run in the runs. You don't have to enter at 935. You can wait and see, because I've seen stocks actually become relative strength that becomes weak eventually if the market keeps tugging on it. Well, this market tugged on it by the tune of $7. JNJ wouldn't falter. That was my sign to go on board, get on board. And if I failed, I failed, but that was a good enough sign to say I'm willing to take the shot, because this is showing really good upward pressure, holding a huge downtrend, strong sector, small wick at the bottom of the daily chart, clean price point to the left. Anyway, come in, check us out at Full Throttle Trades. We do this day in and day out, looking for and engaging in these type of gaps every single day in a room. Come out, check out the free trial. Love to see you there. Hope you had a good one. Bye-bye.